Hello, Teresa Phelps Martin, bringing you the energetic signature for October 8th until October 14th of 2022. So you can be real, true, and soulfully you. By looking to the arrangement of the heavens, the way the planets are aligning and the connections or lack of connections they're making, is that reminder that you're part of something bigger, that you're part of a system, a universe where you belong. Your exquisite nature has come forward in a unique and brilliant way. And these are intuitive connections to the astrological alignment. I'm not going to get as technical today and really just like hone in on this week of October. If you haven't checked it out, please watch the signature from last week. It's because I spoke a little more on the overarching energy of October. This week, we really have this chance to, I wrote it down and it blanked. It's about cultivating refinement, right? Feeling that, cultivating the refinement. The refinement to be able to understand of all the different dynamics, that kind of boiling point, that pressure point, that push and that pull. I even heard somebody say like that they're two drivers holding onto the steering wheel and they just keep bumping into each other rather than realizing that there's different ways of being and there's different ways of articulating. And so if you feel you're just kind of consistently battling an energy that it's hard to break free from, you feel like you move forward and then got slowed down again, and it feels as if there's a little level of restraint. Look at this restraint as a point of a little reality check. We're human, we're limited, there's a lot of impermanence. And how much are you grabbing on to what you can be in control of, what you can take charge of, and recognizing that there's always change. There's always different ways. Now, ideally, the change comes forward gracefully and easily, but I think all of us have gone through something on some level. You might still be going through it that has just radically asked us to reevaluate our lives. So this cultivating refinement is this energy that's here for you to look what is yours, look at your priorities, look at what matters to you, look at what you're going to have to let go of. There are things changing. One of the things that I'm constantly checking in with. I've taught yoga for almost 20 years, and COVID kind of threw me into a conundrum. And then being diagnosed with cancer was another layer. I am teaching yoga 2 days a week, and I sub for people when I can sub. But it's interesting because this was my full-time gig for so long, and it's just what I did. And so I'm even in this place of reevaluating, recognizing, exploring what it is that the universe is trying to tell me, staying open and receptive to the ways I can refine, right? So that cultivating refinement has a lot to do with the full moon. These are the big energies of the week. We have Pluto going direct. Pluto is a slow-moving dwarf planet that is way far away. So Pluto is that energy of transformation. Pluto is associated with the death and rebirth cycle. And in that cyclical energy, it's about the dark layers of ourselves. Pluto is also associated with the underworld, the idea of, like, I grew up Catholic, you have heaven, you have hell. Pluto is in charge of hell, Hades. And I don't subscribe to that perspective any longer. You might, I'm not knocking it. I feel that our life has moments of heaven and hell. I feel like our life has moments of just grand exuberance and joy and delight and ease, you know, where the lighting is just right, which is why I'm in here, because I'm having to record these in the afternoon and the sun is on this side of our house. In my office, it is really dark. So here I am, right? When we adjust and we refine with that energy, and in that refinement of energy, we can honor that we all have a shadow. Go outside, look at your shadow. It's long right now because of the way the earth and the sun are relating to each other. So these sort of things that you're having to let go of, these sort of endings, Pluto's been asking, Pluto doesn't move fast at all. We'll never see a full cycle. You know how we see the moon go through a full cycle every month? We won't ever in our lifetime see Pluto go through a full cycle. The United States of America is going through its Pluto return right now. So think about that in, 1776, right? It's taken that long for Pluto to come back to where it was, and that the moment it was when the Declaration of Independence was signed. There are a ton of astrologers who have done a ton of talks about it. That is not my area of interest. I like to be in the intuitive side. So Pluto is dissolving the infrastructure that we have known. Pluto in Capricorn is kind of breaking down the organizations that have allowed us to give shape and form to more of a bigger energy. That which governs us, that is Capricorn energy, that which governs us. So you have inner agency. So if we put this inward, and I also like to say that Capricorn energy is the wisdom. You've taken the data, you've built something with it. How did it work out? The trials and the tribulations, you have information now. That's the wisdom, the learned experience. You take the knowledge, you live it, you have wisdom. My meditation teacher would say, Jnana Vijnana. You have to take the knowledge, jnana, and then it becomes wisdom because you engage with it, Vijnana. So in that, and yes, that was Sanskrit, and no, you don't need to know any of that, but just sometimes it resonates because our English language is limited on some level. So this is the idea of the wisdom, right? I have learned elements of Sanskrit and elements of traditions that are not my own, that I grew up Catholic. I love the ritual. I believe in rites of passage immensely, but I am eternally curious. So I like to fuse and integrate. So the breaking down of structure is kind of the breaking down of what we thought was. So Pluto's been asking us to look at this. Pluto has been the first planet to go retrograde. It went retrograde in the late April. So now it's going to be direct again until it's opposite of the sun again. So it's finally moving out of that energy. And so we get to be in kind of the rebirth energy. If you looked at where Pluto was in your chart, there's a lot of power to this ability to transform. And that transformative power is essential. It's why I do what I do. Okay. Then the moon will be in Aries on the 8th through the 9th when we have the full moon. The moon will then, and Aries is at the beginning of the zodiacal wheel. So it's that intensity. Let's go. Because the sun is in Libra, it is at 180 degrees, and that full moon is where I'm coming up with the theme of cultivating refinement. It's the divisive energy that maybe you feel within yourself, that we see out in the world. I was talking to somebody I know who's incredibly critical of everything. It's just whatever it may be, it's a critique. This is unconscious. The criticism is unconscious, the way it is delivered, the way it comes forward. And I was talking to somebody the other day and I said, you know what, this person critiques and judges so intensely everything. Imagine how judgmental this person is internally. Because the way we engage with ourselves internally is demonstrated in the way we engage out in the world. So just holding that awareness So that when the moon goes into Aries and it illuminates this part of the sky, right? It's Sunday evening, that we're illuminating the parts of ourselves, our greatness of heart, our greatness of spirit, our enthusiasm to live, our enthusiasm to come forward. And this moon is in opposition with the sun. The sun is in Libra, about partnerships and relationships and values. Can you value your own energy and value who you engage with? And through that, right? So it's the push pull. There's I and there's we. There's me, there's we. There's you, there's I. And we're working together. There's no such thing as just Aries energy. There's no such thing as just Libra or just Taurus or just Scorpio. But there are times in our life where we feel this energy very much, that sort of gumption, that ability to get up and go and make things happen. That's that Aries energy, that sort of blind faith. So when the moon is illuminated in the sky, it's also illuminating and hitting this energy of this overarching tension that we've been experiencing this year. So the moon is at 16 degrees Aries, 16 degrees Libra is where the sun is. Venus is hanging out with the sun because they will be at the exact same point in the sky on October 22nd, which is a big deal astrologically because it is the Venus star point that hasn't been in Libra at this point of the star. The star makes 5 points. It's a complicated thing, but it's really beautiful. So when Venus and the sun connect in the sky through the years, it creates 5 points, and those 5 points create a star. So the Venus star is that sacred energy, and it's the first time in centuries that it's been here. So the sun and Venus coming together, for me, this is just speaks a volume at this kind of reimagining the feminine, right? The reimagining the feminine embodiment, the ability to slow down, the ability to receive, the ability to pause and reflect, that ability to prioritize based on your values, that ability to have desires and realize you're allowed to move towards them. There's this energy of that Venusian, like go look at a lot of Renaissance art, right? Look at that sort of place of just the sacred beauty that's everywhere and in everything. So Venus rules Libra and Taurus. Uranus is in Taurus. Saturn is in Aquarius. Saturn is that energy of being responsible, the reality check. How are we giving structure and form and shape to our future? The tension of this month, this tension of this year is that bumper car energy, that clashing of power. And while Saturn and Uranus won't be at the exact minute point, you don't need to be in those details. We are feeling it, right? We are feeling the tension. We are feeling the pressure. We are feeling the need to change and to rebuild. And so in that need to change and rebuild, this moon, the sun and the Venus are in an easy relationship with Saturn. So there's really this, like, how are we feeling this place of working together for our future, for our hopes and dreams, for the universality that we can all work together. You know, the idea is not so much anti-war, but we can move towards that love and peace. And I know I sound like a hippie yoga teacher, but think about it. Like, what do you really want in your life? Do you want challenges all the time? No, but challenges create change. And when there's that challenge and change is created, imagine what would happen if you wrapped it up in a loving, warm blanket. So you felt safe, you felt held. So the ease of Saturn that's asking us to rebuild for future generations, not just our own selves, but realize for future generations. And this sort of idea that we have to collaborate together. There's just not one area that is better than another on this planet. Humanity, we're human. And so we have flaws, we have egos, we have a soul. And so how can you bring those to work together so that you have a desire, that you get up in the morning, you get out of bed, you create something with your life? That's all ego. But how do you watch the arrogance, the entitlement, the idea that you're better than anybody or anyone, and watch the flip side that you're lesser than? We can work together. It takes time. And this Saturn and Uranus tension that this full moon is highlighting is really about, like, how can we resolve to feel the subtle breakthroughs, to allow, like, we have to change. It has not been, the way things were set up were not sustainable. So in that instability and lack of sustenance, we have to break ground into new ways. There are amazing changes that are coming forward. There are amazing opportunities that weren't available 10 years ago, right? 60 years ago. So in that, feeling that way of waking up, and this full moon really highlights that. So how can you refine? How can you recognize the energy you're working with within yourself? These changes that you've tried to make, but it's taking a lot of energy. Or maybe you find that you're really exhausted because you're healing from so many of the challenges and the radical life-changing experiences that you've been through. So be gentle with yourself. Have the faith. Lean into that greater healing. And remember, this is kind of the opposition energy of Libra, which is relationships, and Aries, which is the individual, the fall, the spring, like the renewal and the dissolve. How do they work together? And so we can cultivate this refinement of realizing that we're just breaking ground to build anew, so that when we move later into the month and we move into the, I know I'm smiling. It's because I'm catching myself from getting too far. But that Scorpio Eclipse that happens on October 25th, this is exactly with this Venus and Sun energy. But eclipses change everything. So I don't want to get ahead of myself, but just realize October 25th, the latter half of the month, that intensity of change really, really builds. So if you can use this full moon to stand in your light, right? To me, this is the idea. I've been teaching this week where we've done a lot more energy standing at the top edge of the mat, standing in mountain pose, standing with that energy to our centers, standing with that vision, standing being able to see on the horizon, standing being able to recognize the beauty. And as we stand, so that when we go into Shavasana and we lie down, we went from vertical to horizontal, we can carry that vision with us. A lot of expansion around the heart. All right, so that's the full moon energy. A meditation would be to be in that just reflection, right? If you could do a meditation where you light up, just stare at a flame, right? A flicker of a candle. I can't remember what it's called right now, but you just feel the energy from the light. You connect with that light within yourself. You envision the light of all the other hearts. Like right now, I'm just looking, right? Because I'm looking out the front of my house. You know, I have neighbors. We have a lot of space in between our houses, which I'm very grateful for. But I can think right now, even as I'm talking, they have no idea what I'm doing. I have no idea what they're doing. But I can feel a connection to the flicker of that light within their own hearts, and breathe that joy and benevolence to help settle and dissolve some of the frustration and the difficulty and the challenges that we've faced, as I also see that light within myself. And I also allow for that peace and love and benevolence with my own challenges, with my own difficulties, right? So it's this meditation where you're focused on the single flame, but you're allowing for that connection to one another. And as this is more of a Buddhist meditation, but that I learned from listening to Pema Chodron's book, When Things Fall Apart, That as you breathe in that light to heal you and support you, as you exhale, you breathe that healing out to all those other individuals who are experiencing the same or different, the parallels of challenges and intensity. So this goes well beyond your neighborhood, right? That would just be the meditation. On the moon will be void on the 10th, from 10 in the morning until 5 in the afternoon. So there's this chance to practice that meditation on that Monday too, if you don't do it on Sunday. You can practice it anytime though. Mercury will move into Libra. So now Mercury and the sun are in Libra. And so now the sun has company, right? Venus is there. Mercury is there. Mercury will move out of its shadow a week later. So that listen to the storyline, the narrative. How are you articulating and communicating with more of that sacred beauty, that resonance, that Venusian energy that you connect to the interconnection of everything. Then on the 11th, the moon will be in Taurus on the 11th and 12th. The moon will be in Gemini on the 13th and 14th. And the sun this week, the other things that are significant are the sun will trine Saturn exactly, and then Venus will trine Saturn exactly. So as you're connecting to this energy moving forward, like Google Venus star point. I just highly recommend it. That you're really conscious of this connection to shifting the relationship you have with the feminine within yourself, the masculine within yourself. Are you always just go, 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 do, manifest, manifest, create, create, create? How are you really creating self-care? How are you allowing yourself to carve out and have strong boundaries to speak your needs, to bring them forward, to say that you're tired and have a nap and have a siesta without the guilt, right? How can you feel that this is essential? This is that lean into the ease of the sun and Venus being in this easier relationship with Saturn, because Saturn's still in its retrograde. So Saturn's still looking back at like, okay, how are we doing? How are we building? And it's getting this like loving, kind, warmth, support. Now, when Venus and the sun hang out together in the sky, it's kind of like a meeting of the gods where we're not invited. And so there's this really renewal of connection to this feminine archetype and how it is just being illuminated and graced. We have a lot of subtle energy with Uranus this week, both Venus and the sun. So we're in this energy of the Saturn and Uranus square. That's the theme of this year. How is it unfolding and what are we doing with it? Because it's a closing energy. It's like the last quarter moon. How are we integrating all of these changes into our lives so we can rebuild for a better future? And so we also this week have Mars squaring Neptune in Pisces, which is retrograde. And Mars will go retrograde later in the month. And then we also have on the 12th, Mercury opposite Jupiter retrograde. And this is the last part of that storyline. Mercury has been opposite Jupiter. It's probably why I'm talking a little bit longer this month than typical. But feeling that ability to, how are you articulating your needs? How are you relating to others? How are you giving yourself permission to recognize what the dialogue is on the inside and how can it be more heartfelt? How can you be more expansive within that relationship of yourself? The Mars, which is how we go out and do things, right? Mars is the masculine energy that's personal, and Venus is the feminine energy. Venus is like, oh, I would love, I'm just gonna be honest, I would love new windows for my house. Oh, it would make our home, it would quiet our home, it would insulate it better. I have a dream, a vision, I desire for new windows. Very materialistic and mundane, I realize that. Mars is how I would go about it. Budget, write it down, speak it out into the universe, find a way to work to make more money. And then this Mars retrograde energy and this dream of, new windows. I'm just going to stay with it, okay? There's Mars is like, go at it, right? Go after it, create a course, blah, 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 get all these things done. And Mars wants to go fast and go quick. But here's the thing. We've been in a pattern of this Mars energy for some time. Do, produce, suffer, who cares? Don't make yourself a priority. You are replaceable, so live in fear that you will be replaced, that you can't produce much and make enough. This is the paradigm that we're leaving, right? Like the idea of women trying to shatter glass ceilings. Sorry, I have a hard time with that one. No, how do we value women that they don't need to shatter any glass ceiling, but rather we can create schedules that allow for more balance and harmony, that don't put all of our life into our professions, that we neglect our personal and home life. So Mars squaring Neptune in retrograde, it's just in this place of visiting and feeling the challenges of your dreams and how you're going after them. It's just a little glitch, but it's also when we had Venus opposite Neptune, it was kind of like the veil came down. We were able to see more clearly what it's going to take. And so Neptune is just like, hold up, not so fast. We have to integrate this energy. Here's the challenge. How are you taking charge of your life? And how are you feeling the support of the heavens to guide you? All right. That is mainly the energy, right? We have full moon on Sunday, the 9th. We have the energy of Mercury entering Libra, so that's a big change. We have the Sun and Venus trining Saturn. There's still this undercurrent of the big intense stressor of the Saturn Uranus retrograde. We have Mars squaring Neptune. It's just, you just find, this really is about a glitch in your direction you're taking to support your dreams and your grander vision. It does not mean it ends. It's just like, okay, we need to redo this, because when Mars goes retrograde at the end of the month, Mars in Gemini going retrograde is what was the storyline back in the summer of 2020. What all did you have to change? What all got shifted? Now this is kind of the meeting point of like, is it sustainable? How are you reinventing yourself? How are you relearning these ways of being more mindful and conscious of your choices, of your drive? Are you part of the group, because there's a lot of them, that are clinging on to really needing things to be the way they were, like clinging to me teaching more yoga? That's just as an example. You could go political, you could go a lot of ways right now. Or are you in the place of like, guess what? The universe has a different plan for me, so I'm letting it separate. And so this Mars square Neptune is like, okay, here are some of the challenges we're facing, right? And I don't want to get into my personal details. And in those challenges we're facing, how are we reintegrating to rework with ourselves? So that's it. I will be back. I feel like that's a lot. This moon is big because it kind of, we don't want to gloss over it, because we're kind of in this place of hitting those bumpy, choppy, the turbulence of the journey. End of October, really intense in November. Intensity just, we're at that. I heard somebody call it the turning point, right? Or somebody else called it the point of no return. We're not returning to what was. We're at a turning point. So cultivate the refinement. You know, you stay in your lane. You keep your side of the road clear. I can't do anything about all the weeds that are in my neighbor's yard. I'm not even going to get mad at them. However, I can water and nourish and fertilize what I have agency over. And in that, then when we respect this relationship more fully and we live with healthier boundaries, then we can come up with solutions. And when we come up with the solutions, then we realize like, I get to be true, you get to be true. And hopefully you're here tuning in because you care of your own journey. You want to be reminded that you're not alone. And I appreciate you for listening. Thank you for tuning in, and I will be with you next week with more insights of how to navigate with the energy that we're building up to as October, the dial starts to turn up. So use this time to refine. And be real, be true, and be your soulful self. Be in that place that allows the light to penetrate into the depth of your being so you can bring your depth and beauty forward.